Hi, it's Kirsty. I wanted to talk a little bit today about ROC triggers that I experienced in my journey with relationship OCD, how those triggers made me feel when they came up, and some of the things that I did do or didn't do that helped me to be able to face those triggers and bring down my sensitivity to them. And I wanted to do a video like this because I'd like to offer some hope to people who might be find themselves very sensitive to these kinds of triggers at the moment, and to tell you that regardless of what your OCD is telling you, you are not the only person to have had this thought, and you're not the only person to have found these things difficult and to have reacted to these kinds of triggers or found these things to be triggering. So firstly, I'd like to talk about one that's perhaps quite obvious, weddings. For somebody suffering with relationship OCD, weddings can be a huge trigger, as I'm sure they would be if somebody was suffering from HOCD, if they were doubting their sexuality. And the reason this is a trigger for somebody suffering from ROCD is because you're watching two people make vows to each other, making a commitment, and you're watching them thinking that they're completely certain about the decision that they're making, and they're vowing to love each other until death do them part, etc. And it does throw out all sorts of questions in your mind, as it would with somebody who's not suffering from OCD. You start trying to, maybe you're wondering if you can see yourself taking those vows, and wondering if you did take those vows, would you mean them? And how would you feel if you were getting married on that day? And then you might think, I'm at a wedding, I should be thinking about the people who are getting married, not myself, and so forth. So weddings can be quite a difficult and emotionally experience for somebody who's suffering from ROCD. Because of my age, having been in my early 30s when it hit me, I was at a lot of weddings. So I was actually pretty lucky in that case. You'd think that I was unlucky, but actually, because I had so many weddings for so many people I loved, I went to all these weddings, got dressed up, danced all night, threw myself into it, and this has been really helpful to me because I was able to enjoy the wedding for what it was, regardless of what triggers, what feelings and thoughts that it was provoking in me, and that has been really useful for me when it's come to starting to plan my own wedding now. I practiced gradually trying to stop testing myself and asking myself how I would feel, and the more I stopped trying to imagine how I'd feel and all of that, the less I felt the need to try and know how I would feel. So when it came to myself getting engaged, it was a joyful experience for me, and I wasn't always sure if it always would be, even though I knew I wanted to get engaged and to my partner. I wasn't sure if I'd be able to enjoy it the way some people have, and I'm lucky to be able to say it was a lovely experience for me. But I do feel that it was a big part of it was working on my irrational beliefs, but also it was exposing myself to these weddings and people making these kinds of commitments, and just also being realistic about it as well. Even though the people who are getting married feel like they think they're certain, there's no such thing as certainty. Otherwise the divorce rate wouldn't be 50% or whatever it is. Nobody goes, or not many people go into a wedding, maybe unless you're somebody who's worked through ROCD recovery, but majority of people don't go into a wedding thinking, this may or may not work. If it doesn't work, I'll learn to be okay with it. They think that they are certain, I think. Thus proving that certainty on these things simply doesn't exist. Another big trigger for me, and I imagine in different ways, this might be for people suffering from different themes of OCD, but for me, music was a big trigger. And it took me a very long time to properly enjoy music again after ROCD hit, which is a real shame, because I am somebody who finds music extremely emotive. It brings back memories of sort of feelings in certain moments and things. I'm very sensitive to it, and I get very stuck into it, and I love it. So I found love songs very difficult to listen to. Sad songs I found difficult to listen to. Shmushy love songs, upbeat love songs. There were certain songs that I used to love I found really difficult to listen to, and it was because they were triggering. Again, it was sort of the thoughts coming up, like, do I feel the way this person feels, the way when they're singing about their partner, and would I feel, you know, if I'm listening to a sad song and it makes me feel sad, then it might provoke me thinking about what if we broke up, etc. And I gradually, I consciously tried to reintroduce music back for myself more by listening to it in workouts and things like that. Sometimes I find myself forcing it on myself a little bit, like really trying to like aggressively not ruminate, etc. And again, that's, as I've spoken about before and other people have spoken about, forced acceptance and forced recovery is not, you know, it's not helpful for us. But listening to it in drips and drabs has really helped. But that was something for me that I think maybe took, I'm sure it wouldn't take everyone this long, but I'd say it took me a couple of years to get properly comfortable, like to not be triggered by certain songs and music. I'd really have to be in the right mood for it. But it's so much better for me now. I'm able to enjoy it again just for what it is. It's just a song. Same as some people say that they're triggered by romantic films and things, and sad films too. I mean, films are a huge trigger for all, film and television, for all sorts of OCD, for the same reasons, you know, testing yourself, imagining scenarios that you see on television maybe, and in songs, and testing how you feel about that, you know, to see what feelings you get. So that's definitely a big trigger. Another big trigger for me was when my partner and I bought a house together. That's a huge commitment. It's a, you know, it's a legal commitment to each other. And even little things that that I sort of was really looking forward to doing, like painting up pieces of furniture and decorating the rooms, because our house is quite a fixer-upper, would be very provocative for my OCD. It would throw out, like, I'd feel bad, like I'm wasting time doing it, because what if it didn't work, and all of that. And I was very much by this point thinking, no, this has held me back from buying this house, which I'd wanted to do for a long time, and I didn't because I was afraid because of my OCD, even though I had the opportunity to. So no, I'm going to work on this room, and I'm going to get stuck in, and I'm going to have this experience with my partner, and we're going to make it beautiful together. And if it doesn't work further down the line, then we will cross that bridge when it comes to it. But right now, things feel okay. I'm cracking on. And the more I pushed through and just let the OCD whine on and on in the background, I felt the feelings in my stomach and my throat. But I let it happen, and I did, and I persisted with working on our house. And again, this has been really good for me. It was triggering, but I did it anyway. It's so important to do what you want to do anyway, regardless of the triggers that come up. And then lastly, for this video, a huge trigger for me has been in many different ways, provoking different themes for my OCD, but getting my beloved dog Banjo. I'd wanted a dog for a very long time, and my partner and I had talked about it for a while. And it's, to me, as somebody who values animals enormously, and it was a dream of mine to get a dog, because being around them makes me feel so good. It's something I took very seriously, and I certainly wouldn't want to, I didn't want to risk, you know, getting a dog, you know, in case my with someone, and then in case we broke up or something and it's not fair on the dog and all of these things. But again, the opportunity came up to get a dog, to get a puppy, and we'd been thinking about it for a long time. It was the right time for me. I was between jobs and we went for it. And it was one of the best things I've ever done. He does trigger my OCD a lot, the dog. But I have no regrets about getting him. He's been absolutely amazing. But that's another thing. It's another commitment with a partner, is getting a pet, as it would be. And I don't want to compare getting a pet to having a baby. I don't want to offend anyone. But, you know, having a baby would be an enormous commitment again, and would be hugely triggering for somebody suffering from ROCD. But you simply can't let your OCD and your fears about things maybe not working get in the way, because people have wonderful long relationships with somebody and then break up in their 60s because they've changed, and the way they've changed no longer fits into each other and values no longer align. But that doesn't mean that that couple would regret the life that they'd had together to date and regret the journey that they've taken together. So that's something I try to remember also, is that we can, you know, there's no guarantee on forever together, but we can still enjoy the journey that we're on together right now. I do apologise, I went into massive cheese mode there. I don't know what came over me, but I do stand by that. I think, you know, couples divorce in their 60s, whether it's amicable or not, I'm sure they don't regret, if they've got children, grown children by that age, I'm sure they don't regret having been together and having those children. So yeah, I'm going to end this video now because I feel like I've gone into cheese mode and I'm rambling. But thank you very much for watching. I hope that it makes you feel a little bit less alone if you're struggling with some of the triggers that I've talked about for ROCD, or in fact any OCD theme. But thank you very much for watching. Bye.